Duos in pro wrestling is like a Kinder Bueno. You always get two. I could probably think of a better analogy, but there you go. When I think of great pairings, I think of Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, the Road Warriors, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, the Hardy Boys, and on and on. I also think of Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, Miss Elizabeth, the Spirit Squad. That one was a joke, but you get where I'm coming from. That being said, relationships are what we remember in the pro wrestling business, but there are some that just didn't get the time it deserved. It left fans wondering what if, or just why, or just tears in the eyes because they broke them up too quick. Have a chill and get comfortable, because my name is Nathan from What Culture Wrestling, and these are the 10 great wrestling pairings that didn't last long enough. Number 10, Trish Stratus and Christian. Chris Jericho and Christian formed a duo in 2002. But it was at WrestleMania 20 when Chris Jericho and Christian battled in a friends versus enemy match over Jericho's obsession with Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus turned on Y2J at WrestleMania and went with Christian. During this time, Trish's mic work had improved and Tyson Tomko had joined them as well. It was like a new power couple, like a Stephanie, Triple H kind of thing. Well, it could have been anyway. At Backlash, Christian and Trish took on Y2J in a handicap match but lost. Then on Raw against Chris Jericho in a cage match, Christian got injured, missing 4 months of action. Unluckily, due to injury, this ended and was never seen again. Number 9, Show Miz. The Big Show and The Miz have been partners with loads of different wrestlers down the years. This one clicked though because it was just unexpected. In 2010, yep, I can't believe it's over 10 years ago, The Show and Miz beat Reform DX to win the Unified Tag Team titles. Yep, that was a thing back then. They successfully defended the titles at WrestleMania 26 against John Morrison and R-Truth, former partners of The Miz, but lost to the Hart Dynasty a few weeks later. The Big Show knocked out The Miz and it split the group up. Reasons why? It was pretty clear that the WWE wanted both to be single stars. We had the Big Show going after Jack Swagger's World Heavyweight title and The Miz winning the Money in the Bank in the future, and then winning the title. But whatever you say, this was a great pairing which really didn't get the time it deserved. Number 8, Raven and Vampiro. 1999's WCW was not the same as 1995 WCW. It was going downhill. They had talent like Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, and I could go on and on, but the product just wasn't there. Vampiro and Raven could have played a part in swaying that downward spiral. They could have been an upper to mid-card act. Together, they were called the Deadpool, but only lasted a month. A month! I mean, in wrestling terms, that's like a day in real life. At this point, the WWF was absolutely smashing WCW. Eric Bischoff told the locker room if they were unhappy, they could leave, so Raven took that offer up and flew away. He went to ECW and then eventually ended up in the WWE. Number 7, the Allied Powers. Lex Luger looked like a star, and it seemed in 1994-95 he would become the main man in the company after Hulk Hogan's departure. Instead, Bret Hart did step up. Meanwhile, Davey Boy Smith made his return after his WCW run, and the Allied Powers were formed. Luger could use this duo to get back up the singles ladder, and Davey Boy Smith could get benefit from better booking than he had in WCW. When Monday Night Nitro was announced, WWF Raw had real competition. Sting set up a meeting between Luger and Bischoff. Luger took up the offer and showed up on the first ever episode of Nitro. It's one of the biggest surprises on the Monday Night Wars and something we look back on still today. Number 6, the Ultimate Maniacs. The year is 1992. I'm 2 years of age, probably crawling around and eating baby food or something along those lines. Can't really remember actually. Meanwhile, in the WWF, Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage teamed up together. The plan was Warrior to turn against Macho, which Warrior refused. Eventually, they got together and they had all the merch and everything to go with it, and I probably would have paid for it if I was old enough at the time, but Warrior was also using illegal substances at the time. Shortly before the Ultimate Maniacs were to battle with Ric Flair and Razor Ramon, Ultimate Warrior was let go and Mr. Perfect took his place. Number 5, Air Boom. 2 high flyers and very talented wrestlers. Air Boom. This doesn't feel too long ago, but it was 2011. It seemed that Kofi Kingston and Evan Bourne, now known as Matt Sydal, were going to fill that role. the pairing were made official in 2011. They defeated Michael McGillicuddy and David Otunga for the titles, and became one of the highlights for Raw going forward. In November 2011, Evan Bourne got done for failing the wellness policy. A few weeks after coming back, he got done once again, and the team was done and dusted. A few years later, Kofi would join a group preaching about positivity, which was rejected by the fans at first, but we all know how that ended up. Number 4, Rated RKO. When DX reformed in 2006-2007, Triple H and Michaels needed top heels to work with. They had beaten Cade and Murdoch and the Spirit Squad, but step up, Edge and Randy Orton. Rated RKO beat DX, but DX got revenge at Survivor Series. Edge and Orton retaliated by beating up Ric Flair to set up another tag team title match. At New Year's Revolution 2007, Hunter blew out one of his quads again, and that meant Michaels had to team with John Cena. They won the titles, but Edge and Orton split. I truly do believe that Edge and Orton could have been a huge act for a couple of years, but things do happen in WWE out of everybody's control, and life goes on. Number 3, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit joined 6 months apart from each other. In one of the biggest and best debuts during the Monday Night Wars, Jericho arrived at WWF Monday Night Raw, interrupting The Rock. Chris Benoit arrived as the Radicals with Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn and Dean Malenko. Over the next year or so, both were still waiting for a big break and were obviously hugely talented. Steve Austin turned heel at WrestleMania 17 and Benoit and Jericho teamed to face the Power Trip, Stone Cold and Triple H. In the main event of Raw, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit won the tag team titles, and it seemed that we would see months of these two together. But once again, unfortunately, Triple H blew out his quad again. Chris Benoit got injured in a fatal 4-way TLC match, and if it wasn't for injuries, then we might have seen a lot more of Jericho and Benoit. Number 2, the Hollywood Blondes, Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. Let that sink in for a moment. Also, let Steve Austin's hair sink in too. In 1992, both Austin and Pillman were struggling mid-carders. They were put together as there was not much else to do in WCW. They split up so Brian Pillman could team with Barry Windham, that's Bray Wyatt's uncle. They paired up once again as the Hollywood Blondes this time and won tag team titles and feuded with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Austin has said that politics were one of the reasons for them splitting, but imagine Austin versus Pillman in a heated battle after one turns on the other. We might never have got Stone Cold Steve Austin. Imagine. Number 1, the Power Trip. Remember that heel turn at WrestleMania 17, which I think is one of the best WrestleManias of all time? Yeah, it wasn't the best thing to do though. Austin was the most over person, he was the biggest star, and no one wanted to boo him, including myself, and no one wanted to really see him alongside Mr. McMahon. Austin also joined his longtime rival Triple H. They first went to battle with Undertaker and Kane, and as we talked about earlier as well, Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. If there was any doubt that he was a heel or a face, his most vicious beatings were beating up the Hardys and Lita with a steel chair. Heel. As mentioned before, Hunter injuring his quad ended the Power Trip. Later that year, we had the Invasion angle and Austin turned face and then heel, and then in 2002, Austin left briefly unhappy with creative. I personally loved the Power Trip and was absolutely gutted when it ended because I really do think these two could have ruled for years and years. They were the 10 great wrestling pairings that really didn't last long enough. Were you a fan of any of these pairings, or were there any pairings that didn't make it on this list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, like, subscribe and share this video, and as you're on YouTube right now, make sure you check out some more awesome videos on this channel. Make sure you give What Culture a like on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and you can have a chat all day about wrestling on there if you wish to. I've been Nathan from What Culture Wrestling, and I'll see you next time.